And our first main topic today got sent in to us by David Mcteere, who writes, "Hey, John, here we go. I know you're sick to death of all the Snyder Cut stuff, but I was wondering if you saw that Snyder just confirmed that a totally finished version of the film doesn't exist and that just, quote unquote, all the hard creative choices are done. Whatever that means. What do you think of his comments?" All right. I don't know how many times on this show I've said this will be the last time we ever talk about the Snyder Cut. I must have said it at least 3 or 4 times, and yet here we are again. But this is worth it because this is a significant new development. Now, you guys know for some time, everybody's, John, what the hell is this apples in the bag thing? You guys have known, everybody's sick of hearing about the apples in the bag. I get it. But for those of you who don't know, but you keep hearing us talk about it, we've all been saying for a long time, look, there is some edit, some version of the film that Zack Snyder has done that if you were to go over to his house, you could watch it from start to finish, right? There are apples in the bag. We agree that there's something exists that goes from a starting to an ending that you could go over to his house, sit down and watch from start to finish. That exists, right? Whether you want to call that an assembly cut, whether you want to call that 90% done, whether you want to, whatever you want to call it, I think most people, not all, but I think most people agree that some version of the Snyder Cut exists that you could go to his house, sit down, watch from start to finish. In this analogy, we all agree there are apples in the bag. That's the apple. We all agree there are apples in the bag. The disagreement has been over such a cut is actually a 100% ready to be released in theaters tomorrow version of the film. We'll call that a watermelon. So some cut that could be watched, apples. And actually 100% ready for theatrical release tomorrow, watermelon. We've been talking about this for a long time. We all agree there are apples in the bag. What I'm saying is that there's no watermelon in the bag. Anyway, so one of the interesting things about this is that Zack Snyder himself has been purposefully pretty vague on it. He has never confirmed 100%. There's a 100% finished version of this film that is absolutely complete. No work left to be done. It's ready to be released tomorrow. Tell Warner Brothers to release it because it's totally done. On his social media, in the last couple of days, Zack Snyder, responding to somebody else, has pretty much cleared the air on this. And by the way, let me reemphasize something that people who watch my show regularly understand. I am unabashedly a Zack Snyder fan. I will always be, as a movie fan, forever in his debt for creating the most underrated superhero film of all time, Man of Steel. I think that thing is a masterpiece of the genre. I like Batman versus Superman. I know there's a lot of people that don't. That's fine. I get it. I even like Justice League. As it is, I like Justice League. But I really like Zack Snyder. I'm quite a fan of his, and I cannot wait to see what he's going to be doing next with his zombie film. Getting back to some roots that he's really, really good at. At any rate, Zack Snyder got on his social media the other day, and he basically said this. He said, the film is not 100% finished. Still some stuff I want to do, as with every film I've made. This is key. I'm not sure what the difference it makes as to the finished level of the film, but the hard creative choices are done. I want us to really focus on that last part. Not even the first part where he says the film is not 100% finished. I want us to focus on that last part where he says, I'm not sure what the difference it makes as to the finished level of the film. Zach, that's been the whole focus of the debate. Whether this is a completely finished movie or not has kind of been the debate. So when he says, I'm not exactly sure what difference it makes as to the finished level of the film, but he says, the hard creative choices are done. Of that, I've never had any doubt. I've never had any doubt personally that the creative choices that Zack Snyder wants to make in his film, I've never had any doubt that the creative choices he makes have been all done. However, creative choices don't take extra manpower and don't take money. I mean, they're hard. They are the hard creative choices that you need to make, but you don't need teams of people and millions of dollars to make hard choices then become a manifest reality. So Zack Snyder has pretty much now come out and confirmed, okay, yeah, it's not 100% done film, but I don't know why everybody's focused on how finished is it. Because that's kind of the whole point, Zach, buddy. That's kind of been the whole point of the debate. And he says, okay, what is finished? The hard creative choices are done. Well, okay, but that's not having a movie that you say doesn't matter how far along it is being finished, but that we have the hard creative choices done. He's just basically affirmed that we have apples in the bag, but not a watermelon. So I personally think this puts this whole debate to rest. There is something that exists that you could sit down in his house and watch from start to finish, and that exists, but it's not a completely ready to be released that Warner Brothers can just release the Snyder Cut. That's why I've been putting out the hashtag complete and release the Snyder Cut. Those of you who watch my show, you guys know that Robert and I on this show have a couple of times talked about how I think it would be a good idea for HBO Max. I think it'd be a really good idea for HBO Max to take whatever is there of the Snyder Cut, put a little bit of extra money in to polish it up, and then release it on HBO Max, because I think that might be a draw for some people to sign up for HBO Max when it comes out. I don't know that Warner Brothers would ever agree to that, and we've gone into it ad nauseum as to why they probably wouldn't. But this brings up something else pretty interesting. You know, while the whole does a completely theatrically release ready version of the Snyder Cut exists, debate has been going on. Every once in a while, I get a message from somebody saying, John, I think you're misunderstanding the release the Snyder Cut supporters, because we don't think there's a completely finished version of Snyder Cut. I'm like, dude, you haven't seen the emails I've gotten from people. Absolutely, a lot of people think this is 100% complete. But every once in a while, I get messages from people who are big release the Snyder Cut supporters to say, John, I think you're misunderstanding us. We know, at least a lot of us know, it's not completely done. We know that. We just want to see it. That's all. We just want to see it. Finished or not. We just want to see it. We know it's not actually finished, but we just want to see it. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting that you say that, but I don't know if I buy it. And this brings up an interaction I had yesterday with one of my viewers, and I wanted to share. This is all public on Twitter, so I'm not sharing any secret information here. But a discussion I had with one of my viewers last night on Twitter, I wanted to share this with you because this pretty much sums up the discussion. So Luki Sabidi writes, I'm of the same opinion in this particular issue. I find that John Campea, speaking about me, keeps harping and yucking on our yum when it's really not necessary. See, I would suggest here's an opportunity for John to understand. It's not about how complete it is, but just our will to see it. So here we have another person saying, John, we don't actually think it's done. Well, to which I replied to him, I quoted his thing. It's not about how complete it is, but just our will to see it. And I wrote, except I'm constantly being yelled at that it's absolutely 100% complete when it clearly isn't. Hell, I support hashtag complete and release the Snyder Cut and actively endorse the idea that HBO Max should fund and release it. To which Luki then replied, I'll be the first to say that the being yelled at part is completely stupid and shouldn't happen. I will, however, propose, he says to me, here, that the vocal percentage that yell at you maybe don't reflect the majority who understand it's not complete, but just good enough to be, as he put, seeable. To which I replied to him, I 100% endorse your position. However, I said to him, I challenge you to tweet this out. Tweet out, the Snyder Cut isn't actually finished, but I believe there's enough to at least see. And watch what kind of response you get. And then I put Lando saying, good luck. To which then Luki gave me the greatest reply. He gave me, it's a trap, which I thought was great. So hats off to you, Luki, for writing that in, because I think, because that was hilarious. All right. So I then came out of that conversation and I thought, well, I've had a few people tell me, listen, the majority of us in the release of Snyder Cut camp, we understand the movie's not done. Which has not felt like that's the case to me, because I get a lot of people blasting me all the time. It absolutely is 100% finished and the world is flat. Anyway, so I'm like, I just don't know if that's true. So I decided to make that the topic of today's question of the day. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. Every once in a while, we do a poll for the question of the day, and I end up being unbelievably shocked by the answers. And today is one of those days, because I asked on today's question of the day, I put this up on Twitter just before we started the show, and I asked the John Campea Show question of the day. If you are a hashtag Release the Snyder Cut supporter, do you believe it isn't actually 100% theatrically complete, but just want to see it completed or even just as it is? Or do you think it's 100% theatrically complete? Watch us discuss here. I'm not going to lie to you. I honestly thought, my perception of this, which apparently was way off, my perception of this and what I thought this was going to be an 80% of the people who claim to be Release the Snyder Cut supporters would say it's absolutely 100% done. And maybe 20, 19, 18% of the people would say, no, we know it's not done. We just want to see it. We'd like to see them complete it, and we like to see it. And I was way off. I'm happy to report, I'm thrilled to report that I was way off. Because a little over 2,200 of you guys have cast votes. And right now, 76.4%, I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned. 76.4% of you guys who claim to be supporters of Release the Snyder Cut are saying, no, we know it's not complete. We know it's not complete. We just want to see it. Which I completely support. I completely support that. And only 23.6% of people who identify themselves as Release the Snyder Cut supporters are saying that they actually believe the film is 100% theatrically ready to be released, and all Warner Brothers has to do is snap their fingers and put it out in theaters if they wanted to. I'm not going to lie to you. I've had some of you guys telling me this, but that just hasn't been my experience with the messages I get. But I think Lukey, who wrote into me, if I'm pronouncing Lukey's name right, forgive me, brother, if I'm not saying it right. I think he raised a good point. I think maybe what Lukey's suggesting is that the loudness and the all caps and the name calling and all that kind of stuff of people who fully believe that the film is 100% complete has just been louder and more frequent. Therefore, that has altered my perception of the actual percentage of people who actually think it's done. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, guys, color me shocked. Color me shocked, pleasantly shocked, happily surprised. But it looks like even within the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut camp, there is a difference of opinion. And apparently the majority of people within that camp don't actually think the film is completely finished, which is kind of what Zack Snyder just sort of affirmed himself. Anyway, I just thought that was fascinating and interesting, and it turned out I was completely wrong on my perception of how many people thought what. And I thought I owed it to my audience to come out and say, you know what? I was wrong. I thought the vast majority of the people who were hashtags Release the Snyder Cut people completely just thought it was 100% done. I would have argued that, and I was apparently completely off about that. And I'm thrilled, but I thought we should talk about that a little bit. So anyway, guys, I put the question to you, and I'm going to leave that poll up for the next 24 hours. Do you guys think that even in light of everything Zack Snyder's now said, do you now think that the Snyder Cut as it is a 100% completely theatrically ready to be released, that Warner Brothers could snap their fingers tomorrow and release it? Or do you believe, no, there are apples in the bag. There's a cut and we just want to see it even as is. And if that's the case, let me know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, and let us all pray to whatever gods we worship that we never have to speak about this topic again. And with the next time we talk about Zack Snyder, it can be for the release of his brand new movie. So let's just hope for that.